Hey, welcome to Shally's Alley. I ask myself often why this is an alley if I'm flying in an airplane, but you know what? I'm just going to let that one go. So today is Friday, April 21st, and we're going to do a SourceCon recap. SourceCon 2023 was just in Dallas, and it was a fun time. I have with me one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Ronnie Bratcher. Ronnie is a fellow sourcer and also an aficionado of the sourcing industry. He was multiple times speaking at SourceCons, and he was with me at this event this time. So we're
Yep.
gonna just kind of chit chat a little bit about what happened. For those of you that don't know Ronnie, he is currently available for contract. He's a contract sourcer, just finished up a 3.5 year engagement, and
Mhm.
he's taking a bit of a couple of days break to plant some seeds and grow his garden, and then he's ready to hit the road again and start sourcing. So if you have any sourcing needs, now I gotta warn you though, Ronnie is hardcore. He sources the old way. He's not one of those just grab resumes off LinkedIn and spam volume, and he's a true one shot sniper where he's going to go out there and get exactly what you need. So really hardcore sourcer. Could not endorse him anymore. I think I've hired him like 27 times for different projects
Yeah,
at
thank
least.
you. Yeah.
And not only that, but as you can see in his background there, Ronnie is also a medal winning cyclist.
Used to be.
Well, yeah, you won the medals already, right?
Yeah,
They didn't take them back.
that's true.
So there you go. All right.
Right.
So SourceCon,
Yeah.
um, what was your? Uh, I'll tell you what mine was. But what was your biggest impression? Like in one sentence, was like, okay, SourceCon this year was blah.
Yeah. So SourceCon this year, I felt like it tailored to the entire stream of level of experience people.
I mean, like the whole
So
spectrum from
the whole
junior to
spectrum.
senior.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the entire content that was delivered was very medium, not
Medium
overcomplicated.
skill level. Yeah,
Yeah, medium skill level, not
not medium
overcomplicated.
quality. Just
Yeah, just
you know,
overall.
targeting the medium
If
level of skill.
Yeah, even if you were, like us, 20 plus years of veterans, we still got something out of it.
Yep, I definitely picked up a few things.
And if you're a beginner, you got something out of it. And if you're mid-career, you got something out of it. And every session that went into, there was something like that as well. So it's
Yep.
cool.
Well, I'll tell you what my biggest takeaway was, and I think this may be your second biggest. I was surprised at how many people I had conversations with where the conversation started something like this: why do I need to do any of this stuff if I already have LinkedIn Recruiter?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and man, let me tell you the ways. Oh my God. Like I talk about this all the time. Even though I was the first recruiter on LinkedIn, 100, I think it was 15,000 members then, and I spent many years evangelizing LinkedIn, and I still use LinkedIn a lot.
Mhm.
It is definitely not my only source, even if I have LinkedIn Recruiter. So it's a little kind of eye-opening for me that such a large population of people in our industry are essentially dependent on it, like
Yeah. Oh,
exclusively dependent on it, and that's not good. Being dependent on any one thing as a source, no matter what it is really not good.
yeah.
But let me put it to you this way: in December of last year, the United States Labor Department released their annual, state of the labor workforce kind of report. And in that report, they published that there are 132 million workers, people that work basically in the United States. That's including employed and unemployed. So that's 132 million people that are able to work.
Hmm.
But here's the weird thing: LinkedIn tells you that they have 190 million members.
Right.
So right off the bat, that tells me something's off, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you drill down, what you'll notice is there's a good overlap of people that have duplicate accounts because they forgot their login, and so you got a double account, triple account. You've got people who are no longer in the workforce that still have accounts. You've got
People
people that
that are deceased.
people that have passed on who have, and so this 190 million is not the active population. It's actually Also, fake accounts, spam accounts, spoof accounts, all kinds of stuff. The reality is that about 40% of the population of people on LinkedIn, sometimes in different industries, is higher and sometimes lower. Ronnie, you can verify this from the healthcare side. About 40% of them do not allow LinkedIn to publish their profiles. So they go into their
Exactly.
privacy and they check a box that says, I don't want to be found in search results. If you're a user of LinkedIn and you told LinkedIn you do not want to be found in search results, recruiters can't find you, even if they're paying, because they can't pay to violate your privacy. So there's a large portion, first of all, people that are not on LinkedIn. Okay. And I've done this test multiple times where I've gone to Indeed and I found people that are on Indeed that I can't even find on LinkedIn, even by typing in their name. But then
Yeah.
there's also people that are not responding on LinkedIn and so on. So bottom line is, I'm not trying to knock LinkedIn here. If there's a tool out there that works, use it. But
Mhm.
that was, to me, the biggest wake up call was like, wow, so many people are just exclusively
Yeah.
using LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What do you
So
think?
I totally agree with that as well. And I'm going to correct you. I think I was before you on LinkedIn. That was a trivia question we
What
had.
number was yours?
I forget the number, but we had a trivia question on that a long time ago, if you
Oh yeah.
recall. Yeah.
So funny story that now that you bring that up. I don't know what your number is, but
I don't know. It
I
was
was number 50,000, and they started at 1,000.
all
So when
right.
I first got my first account at 50,000, that was my first number. But um, I uh, I deleted my account. This was really early on. I deleted my
Yeah, yeah,
account,
yeah.
and then I logged back in again. And when I
Mm.
logged back in, it was 150,000 or 155,000 or something like that. And that time I stayed. But what I was going to tell you is that at the time there was 100 and sorry, at the time that there was 50,000 people, I uploaded 60,000 contacts.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that. Yeah,
You
yeah,
remember that? I
yeah,
would
yeah.
say, that's partly why I deleted my account. But let's just talk about something else now.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to LinkedIn,
Yeah,
LinkedIn as
yeah.
well. So I got the opportunity to operate or run a roundtable for 2 days, which is an honor to do those things. And my actual table was on what they call X-raying, which is the site colon command on Google and Bing, which means that we're just kind of backdooring websites to find content and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that was my table. So like you said, I was really surprised at some of the questions I got at the table. Like one question, one young lady said, "Why would I do site commands if I have LinkedIn Recruiter?" So yeah, that just opened up a can of worms, right? So, for instance, I'll give a perfect example. My last contract, we took away everybody's LinkedIn Recruiter license. So what do they do? How do they source now? So we had to teach them how to do these kind of things to get it, to source on LinkedIn and other
Hmm.
areas of expertise.
The
So
site command, just as a sidebar, works on any website that has public content. So it works cycle on LinkedIn, it works on Facebook, it works on Twitter, it works on conferences, it works on, it's
it
basically
works.
just a way to tell Google to search this site only.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was actually testing Tinder yesterday,
Yep.
just and trying to cross-reference some people out of there. So just testing some stuff. So yeah, so it was really cool, and the people asked really good questions. It was really engaging and things like that. So, but yeah, can we talk about maybe point out a few of the content and point out a few of our friends and what they spoke about, and kind of give the reviews of that.
Yeah. So you said you had a roundtable that where the topic was site colon. Um, and a lot of folks just
Didn't
didn't
know
really
it.
know about it, didn't know how to use it. That's interesting. It's kind of a basic thing. So there's four major, I don't know what to call them. I call them global, but there's four major commands that work across Google, Bing, all search engines, and site is one of them. Site colon, in title and in URL also, and then there's file type. So those are the kind of, like, I would say, the four basics of field search syntax or commands on search engines that I think everybody should know.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you feel the same way, but yeah, let's talk about the sessions. What sessions did you attend? I also want to talk about the vendors too and the kind of overall
Yeah.
ambiance. But yeah, what sessions were you able to catch? I know
Well,
you can't catch everything.
yeah, I couldn't catch everything, but I did catch Erin Matthew, our friend Erin Matthews. She actually talked about her journey, starting and sourcing and how she got there and how where she's at today. Her content was really good. I think it's for somebody that's been in the industry for a while. It's very motivating to see the younger generation coming up.
Hmm.
A lot of smart people, and she's one of them, obviously. And what she spoke about was just you know where what you can be as a sourcer. If you just want to talk about sourcing,
I mean, like
like
career path.
career paths. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So, like, for instance, my career path, started as a staffing recruiter, and then move into a contractor, and eventually moved to a true sourcing only role. So, and I've always everybody's probably get tired of me saying this, but I think you should be a full life cycle recruiter before you do just a sourcing job,
Mm,
by itself, because we
agree.
support those roles. So,
Yeah.
but that's one of mine. What was one of yours?
But so I agree. Sourcing is definitely a specialty.
Yes.
It's so you it's recruiting is the whole job, and sourcing is a part of it.
Hmm.
Totally agree with that. So let's see. There was Trish, there was Junius, Marcel, Hunter, Brian Fink. Um, Junius was, I love Junius. He's just
Yeah.
got so much charm and just presence and everything. But I know you saw his session as well, so I'll let you talk about that one. Um, Hunter Casperson. I've met him a couple times now, and I think the last time was
Yeah.
in Seattle.
Seattle. Yep.
Yeah, and he got started. I hope no, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. He got started in sourcing when he was 19.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's a young. He's not 19 now, by the way. So he presented at SourceCon, and he's been doing this for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years or something like that. I don't know exactly how old he is now, but the point is he's no longer a junior, right? Like, I think once you pass 5 years, like the 5 year mark in any profession, you get to say you're senior now. Like, if you've been doing the same thing for 5 years or more, you're a senior. I think that's just my take. So he's a senior sorcerer, and he presented on some pretty cool stuff. Also, side note, this was really fun. He is a third place winner
Hmm.
in the world beatboxing competition,
Yeah.
which is pretty awesome. So very creative guy. He brought, I think, a different perspective to SourceCon that's a little bit. I needed to hear it, and it's a kind of a different, more, I want to say, youthful energy. Gosh, that makes me feel like I'm old. Not that I'm old, but he
You're
has the
getting there.
perspective of this other generation and thinks the way that
Yes.
this generation thinks. So, yeah,
Yeah.
you felt the same way.
Yeah, totally good. I mean, we needed that generation to speak up and talk. We don't get it. We have a lot of veterans, and we speak a lot and train a lot, and we need to hear from the younger people because they have creative ideas as well. The past 12 years, I've seen so many people just grow their careers, and they're still smart, and I still love learning from them and sharing content with them, things like that, and talk about war stories so that hopefully I'll hear their war stories when I'm on my rocker 80 years old. So, yeah, but yeah, Hunter was cool. I really enjoy talking with him and meeting him as well.
What was
Um,
your takeaway from Junius?
I didn't go to Genius, by the way.
Oh,
I
you
think
didn't? Oh, okay.
no.
I was gonna hold
Mhm.
back on that one. So Junius works with a lot of. He's done a lot of work with um, government recruiting. So recruiting for people that have clearances of different levels, and that's a very challenging field. I've done that myself, and I know a few others that have done it as well that I've worked closely with. It's it's difficult because it teaches you another way of thinking about things. Often as a sourcer, you want to find what's on the page. So you want to match the profile to what the hiring manager wants, even if it's not necessarily the same keywords that are in the job description.
Mhm.
And that's part of what a sourcer does, is kind of expand the options, right? But in Junus's world, and in that world of top secret, many times what we want to find is not supposed to be on the page. It
Right.
can't be on the page. So it forces you to think about finding things because of the absence of information. So what isn't there? And it's almost like a reverse mindset. So his perspective is very different from that angle. That we obviously, if you find the obvious, then it's a clear match. But sometimes you have to make inferences, and inferences can be just as valuable. So I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest takeaway. Who
Yep.
who else did you see?
Saw Trish Whitaker. I've known Trish
Trish,
for
yeah.
a long, long time, and it's finally great to see her speak. And her content was basically, you know, pretty much talking about the beginning of sourcing. So like it was really key to the 1 to 4 year kind of folks in the room. This Her talk was really straightforward. It wasn't overcomplicated. It was straight to the point. She actually showed really good examples of the outcomes of if you do this, this is what you're going to get. Um, and she talked a lot about values of her database, of where she works and how she cleans and uses it, which a lot of people don't go to their database
Oh,
that you
she's
build.
big on data hygiene, and
Yeah,
that's important.
very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought,
Yeah.
Trisha's session was really good overall, and I really enjoyed seeing her talk and catching up with her as well. So it was cool.
Yeah. So she kind of it's a different world than most corporate sourcers. She's working on multiple different clients, and so she supports a variety of recruiters and has
Mhm.
to almost be, I don't want to say the enforcer, she probably wouldn't say that, but she has to be the encourager of keeping good data, because otherwise you have contact collision. That's when two recruiters talk to the same candidate, or you have oh my god, my hands look so big, or you have like out of date information. Multiple examples come to mind. You're reaching out to somebody and they're like, yeah, you already placed me. I'm working at this company. Why are you trying to recruit me? Like, nope, stuff like that. So data hygiene is absolutely super
Okay.
important. Um, so another one that that I think we both saw was Marcel from
Yes. Oh, yes,
Holland,
Marcel.
from Amsterdam. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Marcel. I met him. I actually met Marcel first time in Hungary when I was at SourceCon Budapest, um, and then I saw him again in Salin, and then I saw him again last year in Amsterdam. So it was really cool to see Marcel in the United States. So, but yeah, I'll let you continue, and I'll tell you my perspective of him as well in his
Well,
content.
I'll give you one quick takeaway from me. So Marcel is a very, very imposing, large, imposing man. Tall. What you would think when you think Viking, right? Like he's this, but he is such a sweetheart, and he's so
Mhm.
nice to talk to, and just a very generous person. Shares a lot of information. He was, he did the kind of self-deprecating humor about his
English.
challenges in
Yeah,
speaking in it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, speaking in English. But he's a polyglot. He speaks a bunch of different languages, so
yeah,
he did fine with that. I think he beat himself up too much over that.
yeah.
Um, his content was there. There was a significant component of something that I like a lot, which is psychology. There's a lot of psychology in sourcing that
Mhm.
we probably don't talk too much about. For example, the psychology of persuasion, the psychology of the conversation that you have with candidates digitally and over the phone when you're phone screening and all that. What he brought on was the psychology of um, persuasion, but not the dirty persuasion,
Mhm.
like you go to a car lot and a used car salesman's like forcing this car on you. Not that, but more talking about when you send emails and when you do social media messaging. He used examples of a different type of personalization.
Mhm.
I do see lots of people talking about the value or explaining the value of personalizing messages. Sometimes, though, it's a little over the top where it would work for very specialized sourcing where you're only going to be contacting a handful of people. But that level of specialization where you're, for example, matching someone's LinkedIn profile and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm also a fan of science fiction and I went to that conference," that's super personalized, takes too long. Marcel's perspective was personalization from a human level,
Mhm.
more about like being yourself and using more organic language that's easier to absorb, words to use. For example, you and I do this a lot. He said, use the word you and don't
Mhm.
use the word I. It was funny. I was actually laughing out loud. He showed a slide where he broke down an email from a recruiter to a candidate. This candidate is a friend of his. So he gets examples from the candidate in that perspective. And literally on the screen, it was like, I, blah, 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 I, blah, blah, I. It was like seven I's. This is one email and it had seven I's.
Nice, yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
And then of course he gives you the solution, which is like you can take all of these I's and turn it into we's or you's,
Mhm.
and even just that alone softens the message. So there's some tricks that he showed that way, replacing the I with we. But the other one that he talked about was to use quotes, as in, um, I don't know if I'm saying this. Maybe you can help me out here.
Yeah.
Quoting an employee. So he used a quote from a person who works at the company as to why he likes working at the company or why he came to work for the company when
Hmm.
he's contacting other people. I don't remember if this was the first message or part of a sequence. Do you know more about this?
I can't
I really
remember.
liked it.
I think it was like at the beginning, and then I think the other thing that
At the beginning of the sequences? Okay.
yeah, and the other thing he talked about was the three words. You know, three. He emphasized the three the three word sentence or something like that. And I can't remember all the things, but he had a lot of branding.
Oh,
That
the
cut.
three words when
Yeah,
you're looking at a call to action. That's right. The call
the
to
call to
action.
action. Yeah,
He said that the call to action should have 3-word sentences, and he gave tons of examples of Netflix and other places where they convert a lot of, uh, uh, you know, call to action is really effective, and it's very brief and very to the point,
yep,
and removes skepticism. So he definitely, yeah, that's also part of psychology. By the way, you don't have to have a button on Netflix to be a call to action. You can have a call to action in an email.
yeah,
What would be an example of a call to action in an email?
exactly.
What would you use?
Call to action.
Yeah, in an email.
Um, Please click below, or something like that.
Yeah, it could be check out this job, or apply here, or it
Yeah,
could be I like simply just respond back
say
and
yes or no.
yeah, exactly, just hey, let me know what you think,
If I'm
and
interested,
then
just let
I
me know.
respond, right, and then when they reply, then I can send them the additional information. But yeah, call to action is basically asking them to do something, because if you don't ask them to do something, that's exactly what they'll do.
Exactly. Yeah, and I also like, Marcel being the only foreign speaker, um, is that the content was actually delivered U.S. based content, so
Yeah, yep,
everything was applicable here in the United States, not in
he didn't
Europe.
just show European
Yeah, yeah.
examples.
And if anybody's in the audience and you're a speaker or trainer, if you go to another country, content should be, all directed towards that community, and not what we do here in the United
Yeah,
States,
do
basically.
examples that are relevant for them. He
Yeah,
he did show one in Greek, but it was part of a kind of a
yeah,
little bit of a joke. It was the whole message was in Greek, and I was like, "What is that?" Just
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah. So did you say Aaron? You saw Aaron Matthews?
Yeah, 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 and her content was great too. Yeah, and it was just straightforward. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
yeah,
Junius, Aaron. Oh, Fink, Brian Fink.
yeah,
He kind of closed out. He was like the, I don't
yeah,
know, closing keynote.
yeah. Brian, Brian's got the great personality. Bubbly and just super great guy. Known him for 13 years now, I think. Yeah, he closed out the session, and I really thought he delivered very well. Um, what we what do we crave as sorcerers? We want uh, things that we can take home and try,
Takeaway.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
actionable
and
information.
he had
Yep.
so much of that, which was great.
Yeah, he did.
And as always, I learned something new from that young man, and he had a couple of things at the end. I don't have them written down now right now, but there's a couple of things I want to try. I thought they were pretty cool, and Brian's really very masterful of taking ideas that we wouldn't even think about, and
Yeah, yeah.
bringing
He
to
he
fruition.
jumps like I learned the Airbnb hack from him.
Yeah,
And so he learned the Amazon hack from me,
yeah,
finding people based on the books that they read, and then he took that to Airbnb and like kind of not one up me. He like evolved it and made it something. So I love that kind of exchange in SourceCon, and it doesn't even matter if it's SourceCon, just in general in the sourcing community, you see a lot of that. Oh, interesting. Like Garrick is here. He's done
yeah, Garrett.
several evolutions of an idea, and
Hmm.
fit it back to the community in our Facebook group and things like that. Um, well, let's talk about the vendors. So this was really interesting, and I want to say, I'm not trying to be mean, but I want to say disappointing. Um,
Yeah, it's only like five, right? If I
yeah, there
recall,
was only five. Actually, no, is it more than five?
there may be more. Right?
Yeah, one, two, three, four, five, six. Sorry, there was six vendors, but it was a complete miss. There was one vendor, Source Whale, and my wife, she's a sorcerer and she uses Source Whale. She's very, very happy with it. Is like using it all the time. So that was like totally on point and appropriate. But then there were a couple of other vendors there that I think just kind of missed the mark as far as what they like the audience, like I don't think that they were going to walk away with any connections to potential customers or even influence that way. So it was kind of a little. I was taken aback by how off some of the vendors were. I usually go to these events and learn about the new technology that's out there by looking at the booths and and I listen to what they're saying and everything. That's how I learned about Gem. I mean, I knew about Gem before, but I was at Seattle
Mhm.
SourceCon, and I'm very friendly with the Gem folks, even though I haven't ever until recently purchased their software.
Yeah.
And I just was went up to them like, "Hey guys, how's it going? Anything new?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, let me a few new things here. Let me show you." And it actually like it happened at that event that I saw two new developments in the Gem software that were basically the two out of three reasons that I had passed on them before.
Right.
So I had evaluated vendor multiple times for, as you know, I'm a consultant in
Mhm.
my previous life, if you will, and I evaluated them for clients several times. And the three things kept coming up. I'm like, it's still not there. They had addressed two of them, and the third one just wasn't as much of a. It was like the number one and number two reason, and the third one was my third stopping point, but it wasn't a hard stop. It was like, well, you don't have these other two things, but they solved it. And at that conference, that's when I figured I need to take this and take another look, and I did, and did a demo and everything. I was really impressed. So I like to go to these conferences to see what's happening with the industry, catch up on vendors and technology. There, you never know. There's new technology out there that's going to help you do your job a lot easier.
Yeah.
But when I was at SourceCon, I already know about Sourcewell. Had I not known about Sourcewell, I would have learned about them.
Yeah.
But the other five vendors, I didn't learn anything that's relevant to what I do. So I
Yeah. I
was a
didn't.
little
I
taken
didn't.
back by that.
Yeah. I didn't really get too engaged with the vendors, unfortunately. Because it seems
Is
like
that
they're
something
just.
you normally do at these events? Like, talk to
Um.
them, or
So yeah, normally I do. I normally do. I try to target stuff that that I can
yeah,
possibly
you
bring.
buy your own tools, right? Like like a
Sometimes. Yeah.
craftsman, like a handyman,
Yeah.
you have your own tool. So you look at these vendors as, am I going to buy this tool, right?
Exactly. And if it's a cost worthy, and or if I get on a project, I can recommend. And obviously knowing the people that I meet at the conference, that it's like family and friends.
Hmm.
See if we can make this a little bit better on pricing and things like that. So,
Yeah, yeah. So it was a
so
kind of a, I don't know what happened there. It was a bit of a mess, but anyway, they'll work on it.
yeah,
So there's a
I,
question from
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
yeah. That is the OSINT question. Yeah, yeah. OSINT was only really talked much about during Dean DaCosta's session. Is
Junius did talk a little bit about it. He
did he?
didn't call it OSINT, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
talk about it OSINT a lot. I don't call it OSINT. I feel like we've been doing OSINT before OSINT was OSINT, right?
yeah, we have
So,
been. Yeah. In fact,
so
if you want to know, you want to know all about OSINT, check out the. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Let me edit that. It's the Start Me. Start Me. There we go. Let me edit that. There we go. That's it here. So go to that page there, and there's a lot of stuff in there, but it definitely was covered. And the other answer to that is no. Actually, there was not a lot of classes on how to use LinkedIn Recruiter.
no,
That it was just a lot of people asking, why do I need all this other stuff when I have LinkedIn Recruiter? Which is, I'm glad that they were at the conference because they found out all the different reasons that they need to use it. So most of the classes were not about LinkedIn Recruiter. The OSINT stuff was just not really addressed specifically as OSINT, except for, like you said, Dean's uh, page, who's also got a lot of start pages there.
yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so I mean, like from all the presentations that I attended and just what I heard, I felt like the content was just definitely, not. Sometimes you go and you have like really, really technical stuff that you're just like, ugh, I can't get it. Nothing like that happened at this
Too
conference.
much. Yeah.
Everything was really even kill. Content was, very well delivered,
Hmm.
and things like that. That's
Yeah, I
just,
know what you mean. Sometimes it's like death by PowerPoint and
yeah.
1,000 things that, in fact, did you catch my session?
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, I was thought.
Any takeaways from that?
I always got something to take away from you. I think it's just working smarter and not harder. I guess that's a good way to say it.
I
Maybe you
think
could,
that was the big takeaway.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, like you're talking about, like, don't go down the rabbit hole. You're
yeah.
saying just do what it takes to get what you're trying to accomplish in a very quick way. I mean,
Well, the reason
sometimes.
I asked that was because sorry to interrupt you there.
Sure.
There's a point to that. So I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I'm like, hey, I like to start with the beginning. Uh, at the end, sorry, at the beginning. I like to start with the end. I like to start with what I'm going to be giving them at the end. And at the beginning, I was basically saying, I'm here to take things away from you, not give you. And my comment was, there's a lot of great presenters, but when you come to these events and you spend 2 days learning and listening to all this, it feels like folks are just telling you all these other things that you also have to do.
Right.
So by the time you're done with the conference, you have like more stuff to do. And that was my point, was just take away from the event the things that you learned that can replace other things that you're doing that aren't as effective. So in other
Mhm.
words, figure out what you're doing that is effective, do more of that, and figure out what you're not doing that is effective, or what you're doing that's ineffective, and then replace that with some of the things that you learned here. And then I gave some tips on how to do that and how to focus on that and where to go to sort of maximize your time. But that was my biggest takeaway, was it comes down to do less, like actually do less.
Yeah.
And I think it was a bit of a relief for the audience, because sometimes I think people go to these things and there's this anxiety of, oh
Yeah.
my God, these people are doing all this other stuff and I'm not doing any of it. What am I, like, in the Stone Age? I need to go do all this stuff. And so then there's this feeling like I got to try everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a buffet in Vegas, man. You just
Yeah.
can't,
Exactly.
you can't go to the buffet in Vegas and I mean, you can try, but you really can't taste everything.
Yeah.
You got to pick the few things that you want to try, and sure, you can sample a lot, but here's the thing: sample a few things, and then if you like it, then you can come back for more. So that's kind of the biggest lesson from an event like this is, sure, take down all the notes and then experiment with some of these things and see if there's a way you can fit them in to replace something that isn't working as well, and focus on the highest value activities
Yep.
and do less. Just do
I
not do less with more. I'm just saying do less. Like
mhm.
actually do less.
Yeah. Yeah. I think over the years, being trained by you and several others, but the biggest thing I've taken away is, learn from, like, I'll just use you as an example. Things that you've taught me over the years. Um, you don't have to do it Shally's way. You can do it your own way. So you
Yeah.
take Shally's concept and do it the way
Yep.
you want to do
And
it,
adapt it.
and adapt it, and then you train it and turn it around, and you give that credit back to the person that trained you in the beginning. So,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
Pass it on.
pass it on, yeah, and make sure you,
Change it, make it yours, and then pass it on. That's
yeah,
right.
and give credit to the original source. So,
Mhm.
and I've done lots of that through my career as well. So, especially known for the search engines. Um, so that has just been my study for the past 13 or 14 years. So, something I enjoy kind of researching and looking at and see it evolve. So, but now I got to get into the Chat GPT. That was the other thing I was going to talk about.
Mm.
Well, at this conference, I was prepared mentally to just be overwhelmed by Chat GPT. Thought everybody is going to be talking about it over, even in just normal conversations, and it
Why
didn't.
did you think that?
Because I think the last couple of conferences that I attended online were just overwhelming with ChatGPT, and
Mm.
I'm not saying in a negative way, but I just felt like there was just enough people talking about it in a small portion of their presentation, but didn't just say, "Oh my God, it's the best thing since, like, white bread." So, um, so yeah, I was glad because I was prepared to be overwhelmed and just hereby just be over influenced by the new tool.
Okay.
So I didn't. I'm glad that happened. By the way, is talked about, that wasn't overly talked about. I don't know what's your opinion. I mean, you're an expert user already about it, so but
Yeah. My take on it is very different. I'm actually going to be teaching a master class next week. Brooke, I don't know if you're listening, you can put the link up for the master class on Chat GPT. But my take on Chat GPT is very different than I think most people's. I I I look at it from the perspective of sourcing because
Mhm.
that's what I do. And for me, even though my job now involves as a consultant a great deal of strategy, it's also a little bit about the um, working smart, right? So for me, ChatGPT is more about finding things or finding people or doing things the way that you really wouldn't be able to do before. It's essentially, you know what? The easiest way to describe it, it's a time saving tool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really what it is.
I'm
It's a
kind of
way to save time.
yeah. The way I'm looking at it as well is, I think maybe you mentioned it, or I already thought about it. Was like, remember when Google came out, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's like, "Oh my God, Google," and it's changed our lives basically, in my opinion. But now ChatGPT is taking away. It's taking information even faster. Um, so we don't do as much research, if that makes sense.
Yep,
So I'm saying, so like,
that's right.
previously we would search for the best speaker uh, for your house, and it would give you, Google would give you a gazillion things. ChatGPT will probably go directly to the source and give you what the best speaker that you should use in your house.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah,
They're going to
it could
try and
be.
update the information
Yeah.
because it is a little bit dated, and so that kind of datedness of it is people are asking questions that are related to information now, and that doesn't really quite work because it doesn't have information related to now, right? So for
Hmm.
me, it's more about like, well, I mean, probably the easiest way to do is to give you some examples. Scraping websites.
Yeah.
So there's ways that you can use this to scrape a website. It has to be a website that was around back then, so 2 years ago. But still, there are plenty of websites from 2 years ago that are useful to us. Um, it helps me when I'm writing a pitch or an outreach message. I start it myself because I know what I want to say, but I tend to be personally. This is something I've discovered about myself over the years. I tend to be more verbose than necessary. I tend to say more words or write more words than are needed, or talk more than I should. So I use it to compress. So I write my thing and then I
Hmm.
feed it to ChatGPT and say, shorten this or make this into 250 words or um, uh, you know shorten this by half and make it more exciting or more fun or uh, you know more easier to read, those kinds of things. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what I do and it helps me. So normally I would spend half an hour, sometimes even more than that, refining my pitch because this is going to be a massive campaign. And what I do is when I create my sequences, I don't know if you do this, but my sequences, I change the entire sequence every 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
I adapt it.
That's a good idea.
Two reasons for this, by the way. Number one, it's the language that you use. If you copy and paste somebody else's content or content from the internet, it's already being used, and the detectors are familiar with that language, and so you have a higher possibility of getting stuck in the spam filters. But even if it's your own original content, after you've sent out enough of these messages, it's now registered in the spam detector. So I change it because I don't want to have a pattern. I'm probably still saying the same thing, just modifying it. So
Yeah.
that's another way that I do it. I also use ChatGPT to extract search phrases from profiles because let's face it, it's a language modeling system.
Exactly. Yeah.
Language is what it's best at. So writing, for example, summarizing, etc. But if I give it 3 resumes or a job description, it is really good at determining what the pure essence are or the most salient points are. So you can say, summarize this into 3 bullet points or something, that kind of stuff. I also use it to match candidates. I know this is going to be kind of weird, but I literally say, compare this resume to this requisition in a side by side table. And it'll come back and it'll show me bullet points of Shally's skills are blah 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 compared to the job requirements blah 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 blah. Like point by point, and then it'll conclude with this is a strong match or not, whatever. I don't care much about that because I can tell from the bullet points.
Yeah.
But it gives me a really nice way to. Normally, I summarize my candidates when I present them, but that does take a while. So I literally just go boop, and then it comes back with a short summary that I can use to Now it's a little bit more bullet point for hiring managers that are tactical and frontline. But for executive summary, it's a couple of sentences when I'm sending somebody to like the CTO or whatever.
Yeah.
So and I also automate a bunch of tedious tasks and things like that. So those are the things that I use ChatGPT for.
Yeah, that's cool. The other thing it's not talked about much is SourceCon has they used to be after dark sessions, but they've changed that to what they call a hackathon for the past 10 years actually. So I normally just kind of sit in the room and just hang out and watch people do their thing. I've never really
Oh, you were
participated.
yeah, I saw you participating
So
in
I
it.
participated for the first time in my life, and I thought I got through the first question pretty fast. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And my good friend Susanna Fraser helped build the questions, so I was really hoping it was going to be really tailored towards skills that we would actually use as a sourcer. And then I felt the questions were dead on from a research side and a sourcing side. I had to use Boolean techniques. I had to use, image searching. I had to use Google
Hmm.
Maps to find things. And I actually made it further than I thought I would make it. And I don't do good under like timed pressure. So it was my first time actually doing something that in my career, which is kind of weird, but I just normally don't play games and stuff like that. But I thought it was really cool. I thought there was not much participation. Like there was probably, I think there was more online participation from the
Oh,
virtual side.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I walked in, I
There's
saw
about
maybe
20
5 or
people.
6 tables.
Yeah,
Okay, that
20
makes
people
sense.
or so. So, and the person that won is actually here he lives here in Atlanta with us named Seth. I forget his last name.
Davis.
Davis. And
Yep.
exceptional young man. So hopefully we'll get to,
Very new to sourcing as well, so that was
yeah.
good to see. Yeah.
So look forward to, hopefully see him at a network event here or dinner or lunch or whatever.
Yeah,
So it was really cool to see our hometown hero win.
that's right. That was
So
pretty cool.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was for those of you that might not know this, so we have Ronnie and I have designed and along with Glenn Gutmacher, uh, have designed and run many of these competitions. In fact, three times we did the world's greatest sorcerer, much to Ronnie's dismay because he doesn't like that title. But it's essentially a competition of finding candidates and sourcing and so on. So Ronnie has been a contributing architect to these. So it's just kind of odd for me to see him compete, sitting on the other side of the table, and that was cool. Yeah, I didn't. I usually, if I'm at these, I usually kind of follow along, um, and don't try to like. I don't want to win because I think I really need to give other people a chance, but I try to follow along to see what's going on without the. I'm not getting nervous about the time because ultimately
yeah,
I'm not trying to finish. I just want to see what's happening.
yeah.
But usually I do finish them, and they can be fun. I like them more when they're very practical and there's takeaways that you actually can apply to sourcing, and
Exactly.
that's what I try to do when we do ours. But yeah,
Yep. And yeah, like one of the questions, the question I got stumped on is, I didn't go deep enough on finding. So it was trying to find the owner of the restaurant, near the funeral home of some previous.
finding the person that owned a particular restaurant.
Yeah, but I didn't ever think of clicking on the actual link to the restaurant to read the information. So yeah, I did.
Sometimes it's the
It's the
yeah, you
little
just
thing.
gloss over it.
So I
Last time in Seattle, there was a person sitting next to me, Jackie Clayton's husband actually, who was like stuck on this one question, and he was just getting so frustrated, and the answer was on the page that he was looking at, like like literally, and he kept asking me for tips. I'm like, it's it's on this page. He's like, I've read the page. I've read the page. It's on this page. I've read it 20. No, really, and it wasn't even like hidden text or anything. It was on the page. You just glance over it
yeah,
so many times.
yeah, I just not give time stuff, so it's all good. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought that was kind of cool. And then also I think this overall the conference, I go to these things to obviously find leads and work and things of that nature. But I met a lot of really good new people that I didn't get to sit in their sessions, and I finally met them, after in the evening when we were networking at night. I just felt like everybody was very cordial and very sharing, and became closer friends with a few people that I just met in the past year or so. So it was really cool. I don't know what your thoughts were on that.
I think the hotel was awesome. It was the Hilton
Oh,
Anatole. It was a huge
yeah,
hotel. It was like you needed a map to get around,
yeah, yeah.
multiple towers and everything. Beautiful venue. Hilton, for those of you that are not familiar with the Hilton ethos or whatever, the original founder, he liked to collect art and culturally significant items, and so all Hiltons are decorated with original pieces, almost like a museum. And I'm talking about museum quality stuff.
Yeah.
So this one was beautifully decorated, lots of really great art. There were some sculptures and things like that. In the middle of the big hall, there was a hanging uh, light installation that very gently moved, and it only moved with just one tiny little motor. It was pretty cool. So the ambiance was great, the food was great, the environment it was just a really pleasant place to be. Only challenge, and I don't think this is a big deal, is there's not a lot within walkable distance. There's like maybe two or three places that you could go to,
Hmm.
but the food at the hotel was good,
Yeah.
and the two or three places out there were good, and $5 Uber or Lyft right away, you could go somewhere else. Like I said, it's not a big deal. It just was a little bit out there. But man, I've kept you way past the half. I always tell you we're gonna do this for
Yeah.
half an hour, and then I keep you over time.
Hey, that's the way we work, right?
Yeah, I guess we work overtime all the time, huh?
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Really
yeah.
appreciate you being here, man. Thanks
I
for
know. Thanks
for
for
coming
inviting
and
me.
doing this recap for me. I always like to close with the same thing, and you probably already knew that, so you might have prepared something. But you got any words of wisdom or thoughts or questions that you want to leave the audience with to think about?
Yeah.
Parting words.
Yeah. I think we said it during our talk is that, don't take everything and try to put it on the page and go home and try to knock it out. Space it out. I'll just give you an example. Like on your Start Me page, I've scoured through that thing, and I've probably eliminated like 45% of things that I would probably never need to use that you probably like to use and I don't. So yeah, you don't have to know everything. Find the things that work for you and use it and get good at it, and then tinker with the other stuff when you have the time. That's my wisdom of truth.
I like that. Believe me, I would never be offended if you took my start page and deleted half of it for your sake. That really is not, my start page. Little secret here. So my start page is actually my start page,
True.
like for real. Like that's
Yeah.
right. So I'm using it all the
Yeah.
time, and I try something and it doesn't work, or I delete it. That's constantly evolving. My start page is not a collection. It's actually my fa- basically it's my favorites. I like it better than my favorites because I don't know about
Mm.
you, but the favorites, on the bar top, if things get lost and I find myself clicking in a folder and a subfolder and then sorting and stuff like that, it's something about the start page just kind of being all in one page that is probably an OCD nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Mm.
but I know where the sections are after a while. I just kind of get used to it. So it's actually literally what I do every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually started a Start Me page for myself, and I sad to say, but I have a Excel spreadsheet I've had since 2001 or so that I've kept putting. I call it the Bratcher brain dump, basically.
Oh wow, how
So
much money is that worth?
I don't know. It's not really.
Not for sale? Not available for
No,
the
it's
public?
like you said OCD. I don't have it organized very well. Like I just have stuff everywhere, right? But so the Start Me page is actually making me get organized. So I'm moving data
Oh,
to
that's
my
good. Yeah,
page.
good,
It's
good,
not
good.
well, it's not public yet. Just so I'll go public with it. But
Wow.
I don't think there's enough information there for this worthy compared to you or Dean's and
Oh, come on,
this
cut it
stuff.
out. There's more than enough.
Yeah.
Listen, man, thanks a lot for coming. And yeah, folks, everybody, I didn't mean to jump on Ronnie's wisdom, but basically, Ronnie said, don't try to absorb it all. Find what works, delete everything else.
Yeah.
I love it. All right.
All right,
Take
guys.
care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Be kind to each
Cheers.
other. Bye.